Welcome to Boomer Bongo Boulevard. We're talking about Boomer stuff, and Boomer doesn't get any more Boomer than Bond, James Bond. We're going to talk about James Bond to kind of go along with our themes lately. These icons from the movie. Yeah. I'm Mike, James Mike, and he's Ron, James Ron, just for this week, maybe next week, and because we're going to do it like a second part on this theme as we continue on with
shaky and stirred.
That's shaky and non-shaky. Stir it up. And by the way, don't forget to mash that thing or something so that we'll have subscribers. Because last time I checked, Ron, we're up to 29.
Subscribe.
Somebody can be 30. Somebody can be 30. Yeah. We're up to 29. It's ridiculous.
0030 this time.
Yeah, absolutely. And and of course we got Steve and Don and Hubert still watching, and that unidentified commenter that has made one comment. We want another comment too. We'd like to have another. Only Ron can read the comments or respond to them, so you're just going to be stuck with whatever response.
I'll respond.
I'm ready though, Ron. I'm ready for James Bond because I've been out. We had a pretty good storm a couple days ago. Yeah. I had some limbs down. We've been out cutting and sawing and getting them up next to the road. I mean, some serious limbage has fallen off.
Plenty of thunderballs, eh?
Yeah, I do. I need something. I need a James Bond yard tool. That would be a great yard tool, something that you could ride.
Well, you just got to live and let die, you know.
You're just going to be insufferable this week, aren't you?
I am going to be insufferable.
So we're going to talk about James Bond. Ian Fleming. Ron, first Bond novel came out in 1953. And then, what was the first Bond movie? 61?
Is that 62. Right? That was Dr. 62. No.
Casino Royale. And so just in Dr. No was 61. Dr. No was 61. And
it was actually 1962. I'm going to have to argue with you on that because
maybe
like Mr. Bond trivia. 62.
Maybe the date I've got is when they went into production on it or something like that. I don't know, but I definitely
thought it actually came out in 62. The next one came out. Let's see. From Russia with Love is 1963. The third one, Goldfinger, 1964. Thunderball, 1965. They skipped 1966, and they were having a little trouble with Sean Connery, and they came back in 67 with
Sean Connery caused problems? Are you kidding? He would never do such a thing.
And then they got a new Bond to replace him, who was George Lazenby, had zero acting experience. And that movie, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is, a lot of people say it's one of the best made. I mean, it does have some of the best direction, I think.
Right.
And that was in 1969. And then, of course, Sean came back in 71 for Diamonds Are Forever.
Well, and then Never Say Never.
Yep, Never Say Never in 1983.
So that was long after Sean Connery had gotten away from the Bond thing. But I was thinking, one of the things that makes these characters we've been talking about iconic is the fact that, and that's how you can really tell a real series of based on a character, is if it's truly based on a character, you're going to have different actors play the character.
Absolutely.
And you've got it with Sherlock Holmes. You've got it with Tarzan. You've got it with the Frankenstein monster. You have many actors that play them, and some are favorites of. Everybody's got their preference. Everybody's got, hey, I prefer Sean Connery, and Sean Connery was the hands down winner in James Bond for the longest time, except for folks that like that British sense of humor, and then Roger Moore maybe was, but then Daniel Craig suddenly really created a debate. To me, he's the only one that can touch Sean Connery, but. We don't have to talk about all that right this moment, but it's just that's the thing about these iconic characters is they go on forever. The actors get too old to play them or don't want to play them anymore, or they're afraid of getting typecast. But man, the character lives on in different ways. Sherlock Holmes is just all over the place. Bond has pretty much stayed limited.
Well, it's been shepherded its entire time by the same people. You had Cubby Broccoli and let's see, Broccoli, and I'm trying to remember the other guy's name, but he's long gone. But it's been the Broccoli family consistently until Amazon has recently acquired James Bond, and the last surviving Broccoli got really bent with all the different things they were talking about doing, like changing it to a television series and doing all this different stuff, making a female James Bond. And they were just like, and she just told them, you guys are effing idiots.
Well,
and
we're pointing out that James Bond, of the iconic characters we've talked about so far, is the only one that stayed so far exclusively in the movies. I guess there might be some cameo appearance in a TV series somewhere or something like that, but maybe in England. But for the most part, Bond has stayed pure, coming out with a movie every few years, and you can kind of expect a James Bond movie.
Longer gaps as it's gone along. Originally, like I said, it was every year, and then it was every other year for a long time, up until like 1989, I think.
Yeah.
Or 91, and 1989, and they had their first big gap, which was until like 94. And then they did every other year for a little while.
Who have we left out? Pierce Brosnan?
Yeah, Pierce Brosnan.
He's my least.
That's who kind of, helped bring it back, because it was almost DOA in 89.
Is he your least?
They waited a little while, and it was 95, not 94. 95 was when GoldenEye came out. And GoldenEye is actually the name of the estate where, oh gosh, what's the name? Ian Fleming. That was Ian Fleming's estate, was GoldenEye.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And that was before he wrote any James Bond movies.
Yeah.
He had that estate.
He was like a kind of a spy-like guy himself. So he knew a lot about all that stuff.
So I wonder how many gadgets in real life exist that we still don't know about that spies had.
It's funny to mention that. I was watching a documentary about James Bond movies, and it was mostly concentrated on stuff they did in the 60s. Like, this was the one story this guy told that was one of the prop guys for, some of the Sean Connery movies. There was one where he has the little thing in his mouth. I think it was Thunderball. It was like a rebreather thing.
That's what I always think about.
Said, and they got a call, and he said he was the one who picked up and said it was like the CIA going, hey, does that thing really work? I said they would do that sometimes. They would have stuff they would make up, and they'd get calls from like intelligence agencies going,
and they're
y'all have schematics on that, or
then they had to stop the conversation and explain to the CIA. Just like some old grandma in lane 5 in the grocery store. No, it's a freaking movie.
But on occasion, they would have things that were really cutting edge you had never seen before.
Yeah.
That were just cutting edge, like in You Only Live Twice, the little Nelly helicopter.
Yeah.
That was real. That thing was real.
Well, I've got a suggestion for the next Bond movie. This is one of those things I read about years ago, read 2 articles maybe, and it disappeared forever, so we know where that all went.
Yeah.
But this scientist in maybe Harvard, Yale, Princeton, somewhere, one of the Ivy League schools, he and his wife had been working on a brain implant. He put a brain implant in his wife, in his wife's brain, and she could make her husband's finger move. She would make his finger tap.
Oh, wow.
And
they
you're
turned
thinking,
themselves into the Corsican brothers.
Oh my God. What a spy device. She walks in a room and looks around, and she's having a conversation with the bad guys about some top secret thing. And then she just stops and Morse codes, in the next couple 2 rooms away to her husband, who's sitting there in the lobby of a hotel looking at a newspaper, and his finger starts Morse coding, information. And boy, wouldn't that be a great what a great communication device. You've got one in your head that moves my finger, and I've got one in my head that moves your finger, and we're just sitting there talking away with our fingers tapping out code under our
knee. The stuff we have now, they've already got glasses that do a lot of crazy stuff where other people can see what you're seeing,
Sure.
and I've told you about, and I know some people have some of these, and the AI universal translators, that works very well.
Yeah, until they don't. I was watching some sporting event. I can't remember what. And I wanted to know a score, and I typed into my computer, "What was yesterday's score between X and Y?" And it was two college baseball teams. And it pops up a story about when they played football against each other 2 years ago, and I'm thinking, okay, this is AI. What is so difficult for AI? Why is this concept of yesterday so tough on them? I mean, yesterday is not going to be a football score, Mr. or Miss or whatever you are.
I just
AI.
thinking about whatever the time is all over the world, maybe.
Yeah, I guess so.
Knows? That could be it,
Hey, Ron, we're not talking enough about James Bond, but that's the James Bond influence, though. Anytime somebody comes up with some little gadget, they start talking about James Bond. This is just like James Bond has a pen that writes invisibly here. What James Bond? Some of the things associated with James Bond. You already mentioned Shaken Not Stirred.
Yeah, the vodka martini.
Aston Martin.
The tuxedo.
The tuxedo.
Especially I always think of the white dinner jacket for some reason.
Oh, sure. The gadgets. I mean, these things were in every James Bond movie. They almost always have a tuxedo scene in every James Bond. And
he always goes in a casino, and what does he always play? Baccarat. Yeah.
And I'm always a little. You pick Baccarat, and I'm thinking, I'm not even 100% sure I know how to say that, but James Bond, he just muscles through no matter what. You know what, though? When I was out there sawing limbs and picking up trash, I was thinking that's one thing that James Bond would never. He could do it, but he would never do it. James Bond's just too suave for it. He'd get somebody else to do it. He'd pay someone to do it or trick someone into doing it.
And we've got to talk about the women's names.
Oh, sure.
Of course, the number one everybody knows.
Sure.
Lucy Galore.
Right.
Then there's you got Plenty O'Toole and Holly Goodhead. And
I wish you hadn't started talking about that, honestly. I'd forgotten how truly suggestive those things are.
They don't do that as much anymore, but
well, they do it for the eyebrow raising factor. And mainly Sean Connery. He was the best at raising an eyebrow when he heard a name and reacting to it.
And of course, there's Octopussy as well.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that was the title of one of the movies. What studio was brave enough to name a movie Octopussy?
My favorite line from that movie is one of the bad guy in the movie is talking to the lady called Octopussy, and he's like going, she said something he didn't like or something. He goes, Octopussy, Octopussy, Octopussy.
James Bond. So, Ron, of course, the things you like about I guess everybody kind of likes James Bond movies. You can't find anybody who doesn't like at least one of them.
Yeah.
But the problem I always had with James Bond movies, and then I finally got over it. The older I got, the more I got over it, is somewhere along the line in every James Bond movie, I just sort of lose the plot. All I know is James is going to get in a fast car, run from the bad guys, rescue somebody. I don't remember quite why he's rescuing them or where he's going or what's at risk, but I just kind of lose the thread of the plot. But then I finally came to accept that's what they're going for. They want to get it just convoluted enough that you just get lost in the moment, just like James Bond is, because all he can really think about from halfway through the movie to the end is, how do I get out of this alive?
And, when you were saying it made me think about something. We were touching on Daniel Craig. That's one of the drawbacks to me about Daniel Craig. I mean, I like his movies and I like watching him as Bond, but I think back and I have difficulty recalling a lot of his movies. What happened, and because like most of the other ones, I can really remember stuff. But it just seemed like they didn't have as many memorable sequences as a lot of the other ones did. Like I can remember the scene, at the first set one that made parkour.
scene at the beginning of Casino Royale.
That was great.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was very memorable.
Maybe the best thing ever.
And in the same movie, him getting his junk abused with that rope in the bottomless chair.
Right.
Everybody remembers that one.
Well, they had the running of the bulls scene in one of them, and that's very James Bond. It's European. It's go hopping from one country to another. How many languages does James Bond speak?
I have no idea.
I mean, he's got to be able to.
Got to be a lot, because anytime you're a spy, you have to be able to.
You have to be able to speak at least one of them.
Yeah.
So.
Now there was one that he had the one memorable thing. I think it was from Spectre, where it started out and he's like at Carnival, and he's got the skeleton costume on, and it's got it's playing this kind of interesting music, and they're kind of walking to the music, and it's the camera's behind him and this lady, and it follows them all the way through the crowd, turns into a hotel, goes through the lobby, goes all the way upstairs. In the case, it's a single shot, and he goes all the way up to the room. Camera stays on, and he goes up and they say a few words, and then he like takes the costume off. Of course, he's got like a suit on underneath. He's got the tuxedo on. He steps out the window. He's walking, and it's still the same continuous shot. And he's going to like assassinate this guy or something. And the whole thing continuous shot.
It's kind of James Bond, the Aston Martin's associated with him, and the drink, the martini, and the getting dressed in the tuxedos. Is there a gun that's associated with James Bond?
Walther PPK.
Okay, there we go. That's what I was thinking, and he had to. You couldn't miss that opportunity to kind of have a trademark weapon for James Bond.
And it always makes that same sound, that same little James Bond pow, in every movie.
The the James Bond villains. What a line!
Yeah, they've always got something weird about them.
I liked Oddjob.
Yeah, throwing the hat.
Well, Oddjob kind of stole the movie from the supervillain. And that's something that's hard to accomplish in a James Bond movie. But I think Oddjob pulled it off. But cutting the head of the statue off. That's the one everybody
remembers, the throwing the hat. That's
And I guess the
lady with the spike in her shoe.
Well, what about the golden, the giant with the golden teeth?
Oh yeah, Jaws. They weren't golden, but they were metal. Yeah. And Jaws is the only villain that appeared twice. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was in The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker. He just went around. Obviously, he was he was just out for a buck, apparently.
Well, and he was the second banana bad guy in both of them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting, but that's a measure of some real gravitas for an actor, is that they can be a second banana and steal a movie away from one that's set up to glamorize this bad guy that Bond's going after. And Bond's got to be the luckiest spy who ever existed, because the egos of the bad guys he went after are so big, it's just too easy to just shoot Bond in the head. How many Bond movies would have ended if they had just gone, Mr. Bond, pow, pow, pow,
Yeah, they do that joke in Austin Powers. The son's talking to Dr. Evil. He goes, "Come on, I'll go over and shoot him in the head. Bang, he's dead. Done." He goes,
"Oh, no.
No." He goes, "You just don't get it, do you?"
You don't. You got to build some $20 million machine designed just to kill James Bond, and you put him in it, and you set the machine in motion, and then you go and have dinner and leave him unguarded so he can do anything.
I've got something I've got to do. I could have done this hours ago, but I just happened to think of it right before I had to go have a meeting. So
goodbye, Mr. Bond.
Yeah. And I want to correct one thing I said, or we'll probably get a comment on it. There is another villain that's appeared in many movies. He just wasn't played by the same actor every time, and that's Blofeld.
Well, there you
Blofeld
go.
was played by Donald Pleasance, by Telly Savalas, and here recently, the guy that was in Django Unchained and Inglorious Bastard, Christopher Waltz, and let's see.
Just
Who
the
else? I'm trying to remember the other guy. It's the guy that's famous for being what is that movie with Frankenfurter and all that stuff? The Rocky Horror Picture Show. He's the
okay.
goofy old guy that goes just a step to the left.
Yeah,
That actor. Going around the world to find that guy. But yeah, he's the other guy. But it's like every time he appears, he's a different guy.
He was the Lex Luthor to James Bond Superman, I guess. It's kind of how it ended up.
You got to have Blofeld.
I guess
Blofeld killed his wife, so spoiler alert.
James Bond. What was the who's your least favorite James Bond?
Least favorite?
Yeah.
Probably everybody. Probably George Lazenby, because he only did it once, and he got tried, but he was very wooden. He just was.
See, I don't think Pierce Brosnan. Pierce Brosnan.
I'd probably put him in second worst position. Yeah, I wasn't crazy about it.
He was just a little too effeminate when he was young. He was just a little too prissy to be James Bond. But oddly enough, now I would totally buy him as an older James Bond. He's gotten really.
Bill is a little narrow too at that time. He was kind of slight, He's got
a different vibe now than he did when he was younger, and I think he would be great playing an old James Bond, a post-retirement James Bond who gets pulled back in for some adventure. I think that would be a good James Bond movie.
It seemed like he said not too long ago he would love to come back and be old James Bond in a movie.
I mean, I
can
think
see
he's
him
the
doing
one that could sell it.
I can see him. He could sell that.
And oddly enough, I don't think Sean Connery really did when he was in Never Say Never Again. I just he had just gotten a little long in the tooth, and then the old Sean Connery just looked nothing like James Bond. He looked like college professors and things like that he played in movies, and old retired detectives. And,
well, he was perfect for Indiana Jones' dad in that movie,
Oh yeah. He was
right
just
in his wheelhouse.
So I would temper my criticism of Pierce Brosnan by saying I would be wholeheartedly out there to attend a movie where Pierce Brosnan, I can't keep having trouble saying it, played an older James Bond, an elderly James Bond.
Yeah,
who I think would be even trickier than before because he knew. Why am I having trouble?
To make it where he had to come back and do something personal, like maybe help somebody in his family or an old friend or something. It wouldn't be because they'd never have him as as an agent again. It would have to be, like I said, it had to be something personal.
Didn't James Bond though? Of course, 007, License to Kill. We talked about Tarzan being amoral and Frankenstein, of course, being amoral. Just doesn't have any morals. Mm-hmm. Bond, I don't think Bond had any morals. He never really questioned anything they asked him to do.
He can function about popping anybody, that's for sure.
Yeah, and just make a joke and he's off to dinner. And there's a body stuffed under the bed that he's hidden so he can get back to it later and dispose of it.
A perfect example of a line is kind of like being amoral. It's by Pierce Brosnan movie. There's this girl that was he thought she was good. She wasn't. She was in cahoots with the bad guy.
Right.
And he's got his gun pointed at her and he's trying to get something out of her or whatever. And she goes, "You'd never kill me. You'd miss me." And he just goes, "I never miss."
Yeah. I mean that's Bond. So I don't know if you think about things like that, it's a lot harder to get into James Bond, and I guess that's why some people have objections. You occasionally have somebody protest a James Bond movie, or really come down on him, and you can tell they really mean it. I don't know how anybody would take a James Bond movie that seriously. But on the other hand, there's definitely some moral issues. I mean, it does seem like
Yeah.
James Bond would at some point go, I don't know if the British are necessarily that trustworthy a group to be murdering people for. I mean, these are the people that got Gandhi all fired up.
I'm not sure I'm understanding the stiff upper lip thing.
Yeah. American Revolution, they're not the loving folk that we like to think they are. And James Bond would totally come to
Not the
America and kill a
whimsical,
couple people.
tea-sipping fellows that you've been told.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just that. Hey, Ron, we can't drop this without talking about the James Bond music. James
I was
Bond,
thinking the same thing.
it's almost like rock and roll. James Bond has a style of music that appears in all of them. The undercurrent theme songs. Bond's got a theme song. Da-na-da-na-da-da-na. Tarzan doesn't. Frankenstein didn't have a theme song.
No.
The Sherlock Holmes doesn't have a theme song, but Bond does. Bond's got. I'll bet you, Ron. I'll bet you there's some college baseball player somewhere that's got his walk-on music as the James Bond. Da 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 da. You better be good if you got James Bond music, though.
You have to be.
Yeah. What do you call it? What? Not walk on. Walk out.
Walk out. Number one records and stuff too. I can't remember them all, but I know "Live and Let Die" was. I'm pretty sure Goldfinger was. I know "For Your Eyes Only." The last one that was ever number one was "A View to a Kill" by Duran Duran in '85.
Yeah, I don't really remember hearing that, but maybe I'd gotten away from listening to the radio so much then. My songs of the week, I've got 4. They've got music is such a big part of James Bond that there was no way you could do one James Bond song as a song of the week here. But I think my favorite, I'll save it for last, but Sheena Easton, "For Your Eyes Only," which
it's great.
Is right there in that theme. It just sounds like a Bond theme when you hear it. Nobody does it better. Carly Simon, which would be the one that a lot of people might not think of right off the bat, because I don't know, Carly Simon just does not seem like the person that would sing a James Bond thing.
That's probably my favorite.
Nobody does it better.
Yeah,
it's good. Well, it's Carly Simon.
Well, it kind of epitomizes Bond, because it sounds like that's one of the. It just sounds like it's talking about Bond.
Oh, sure. Well, "Live and Let Die," Paul McCartney, one of the Beatles, and he comes in and he gets pulled right into the Bond sound. You would think Paul McCartney would go, well, I don't really want to do a Bond sounding theme. Can I get away with that? And they're going, you're Paul McCartney. You can do whatever you want. You can play "Mary Had a Little Lamb," which Paul, by the way, did record at one point in his career, and we'll take it. Paul, okay, that's what he'll do. And he said, dang, it sounds like a Bond movie. I just can't help it. And my favorite, though, Shirley Bassey did 3 Bond themes. Goldfinger. I just like that. Goldfinger. Da, da, da. Just, man, you're ready to watch a Bond movie after you hear that.
I know.
And what a voice.
I'll tell you one that's kind of underrated. I'll bring up, because it's done by another favorite of both of ours, Tina Turner, the theme to GoldenEye.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
That was a good one, I thought.
Boy, they just the producers of the Bond movies. What I guess every musician out there secretly fantasizes about being asked to do a Bond thing. I'm thinking a lot of them already have
really
one
fired up when they get asked. Always.
Oh yeah, you never hear of anybody turning them down. I wonder how many professional songwriters or singers have a Bond theme already written and ready to go in case they ever get asked, or at least have a pretty good idea. I think I would.
It usually has something in the movie, but there was one time that it didn't, and you could probably guess which movie.
I can't.
Octopussy.
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah.
Because Rita Coolidge was doing that one, and it was like basically everybody was going, man, I ain't touching it with a 10-foot pole.
No. I didn't think about it. You brought it back around to that. Hey, so any last thoughts on Bond, James Bond? Ron?
Oh man, I mean, there's so much. I'd get going down a rabbit hole again, but I
Yep.
guess we probably should, park the old Aston Martin for the moment and maybe pick up with another vehicle at some point in time because we got tons more to talk about.
Yeah, we really do. What we want to talk about, and we will talk about in our next episode of Boomer Bongo Boulevard, is which, by the way, this was season 2, episode 15, so it'll be episode 16 of season 2. Is the influence that Bond had on the culture as far as
Uh-huh.
imitation? So many movies.
And,
Dean Martin made spy. I mean, spy movies exploded after James Bond came on
oh
the
yeah,
scene, and TV series like
cartoons,
nothing.
everything. Yeah,
Even now, all of a sudden, I'm not sure that Bond isn't what killed the cowboy TV series,
yeah, very well could have
because
spies and stuff. Yeah.
somebody walks in and goes, "Hey, we've got this great looking actor who really wants to do TV, and we've discovered him, and here he is, and we want to put him on a horse and make him the sheriff." And those Hollywood guys eventually all started going, "We got a better idea. Let's put him in a tuxedo and make him a spy." And there you go. So we'll talk about that next time on Boomer Bongo Boulevard, right, Ron?
Absolutely.